something I always tell all these prospects is a lot of us can do the same thing. What you really have to decide when you're deciding an agency is the relationship. Do you believe that who you're working with has the same goal in mind for your end goal of your company? Because ultimately there are, some people who just want that cookie cutter, a couple posts a month and get it done. And there are people who are really passionate about their business and want someone to feel like their business is their baby to them as well.
Welcome to the Exact Digital Podcast, where we explore the ins and outs of digital marketing with some of the brightest minds in the industry. Today, I'm excited to have Yasmine Khosrowshahi, CEO and founder of BlueTick Social, with us. Yasmine's experience spans across social media marketing, paid ads, omni-channel strategies, having worked with a diverse range of industries, including tech, cannabis, law, and more. She's passionate about creating custom, not cookie cutter strategies for clients and emphasizing authenticity in the content that they've created. And this episode will dive into how BlueTick Social differentiates itself in the crowded digital media space, the challenges of managing omni-channel campaigns, and how they make authenticity work in the social ads. Yasmine, welcome to the show.
Hi, Kenzie. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you so much for being here. So you mentioned that BlueTick Social takes an industry agnostic approach, which, first of all, I loved the way she said that. Never heard that before, and now I will use it every day. And working with clients from cannabis to tech, how do you tailor your strategies for such diverse industries while managing a consistent approach?
Yeah, definitely. So when we talk to any prospective client and we're going to bring them on board, the first thing we say is in the first month that we work with you, we are not going to create or produce any social content for you. The first month is very much focused on building your social media strategy, which is the custom plan that is going to be fit to your audience, you as a founder, why you built this business, and why the industry itself will do well based on this strategy. And so with that, we build, your messaging, your target audience. We look at a competitor analysis. We go through the social channels that are going to work. We talk about a content strategy, a paid strategy plan, and a 3-month plan. And all of this is unique to the individual company that we bring on board. And, we have companies in the same industry doing similar things, but their plans are very different because we take into account the reason that CEO or founder built the company, which we always believe is going to be unique from the next company and why they wanted to build and grow their company. And so that's a really big differentiator that allows us to do the whole industry agnostic idea. And the part of it that allows for, using our same plan over and over again is when we go into the strategy month, we know the elements that we are going to need to pull out to build this plan, and then couple that with research and our industry-backed skills, we're able to put it together all together. And again, doesn't fit any other business but the one that we're building it for.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree, because one size never fits all, and focusing on one can sometimes put you down into a pigeonhole. And if that's what you want to do, then that's what you want to do. But like you said, everything is different. So even if you're looking at 3 roofing companies, 3 different med spas, they're all going to have a different approach because they have different goals, different mindsets. So I really like that you take the time and build that out rather than just being that order taker and just saying, okay, sure, we'll do what you say, and having that brainstorm with them.
Yeah, definitely. And there's definitely sometimes that pull with those clients who come in, they're like, you're the experts, you guys figure it out and tell us what to do. And then they're like, they see the plan and they're like, well, I kind of want this and that. And it's like, okay, as long as you're aware that, against our professional recommendation, this is not what we're saying to do. You want to move forward with it? Great, move forward. So there is a gap in that education aspect of what clients want versus what we think might do well. So what's nice about marketing is there's always the ability to test and try again and keep developing, because marketing is never the same. It's growing year over year. When I started this agency, the things that worked don't work the way they work now. And, the things that work now didn't even exist when I started it. So it's a very cool industry to work in and just be able to see the evolution of these companies grow through that.
Yeah, absolutely. And everything is always changing. So we as marketing agencies have to also adapt. So things that maybe worked 20 years ago or even 5 years ago, maybe even a couple of months ago, might not even work. So as a professional, we have the knowledge, but I totally understand when a client says, no, this is our brand, this is what we want, and I'll respect that as well. So meeting in the middle can sometimes be what happens, but always giving your feedback is really important.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So one of the unique things you mentioned is your focus on authenticity and content. So how do you balance authenticity with the need for highly effective ads, especially when businesses want polished traditional content?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it was really cool. There was a transition right after COVID for this very, I think, polished, because ads became much bigger. The idea of using marketing became a lot bigger because of what happened with COVID. And this idea that, finding the perfect video or working with influencers who create the perfect videos has grown a lot. But what's really cool about social media, especially when it comes to things like ads, is we are allowed to A/B test. We are allowed to try different methods and isolate different scenarios. So for the people out there listening who don't know, with A/B testing, there are three things you can test against. I call it the triangle. The first one is your audience. The other one is the target segmentation. And the third one is the messaging. And these are the three really important elements that do bring an ad together. So when it comes to content, we are always A/B testing content. And it's actually really interesting what we found in the past couple months alone, which is that the polished content doesn't work. That perfect cookie cutter, beautiful, like, photo shoot-esque, professionally done, thousands of dollars paid for content does not work online because you're not fooling anybody. We are the consumers. We know what we're going to see. We see millions of things per day. And so if you really are just trying to show me another perfect piece of content, I don't relate to that. I don't, have a connection to that. What we have actually found to work is very simple content, very simple images or videos, gets the point across really quickly, because something that we're all forgetting when we're trying so hard to make this lavish content is because we're being fed so much every day, we don't want it to be fluffy. We want it to be simple. We want it to have meaning, and we want it to get to the point very quickly. If it doesn't do those things for us, we're going to move on. Even whether it's consciously or unconsciously, we are going to move on from that content. And so I've actually found significantly higher ROAS numbers by doing that simple content, when previous months for that same exact client, we were doing, the UGC or like the very perfect content, and it wasn't showing the same results. So it's definitely something that, it doesn't mean that perfect content can't work for the right industry and like that really polished stuff, but it's really important for all marketers to A/B test, not make assumptions, have some KPI goals up front and compare it to what they actually end up being, and then being able to re-strategize and retest from there. That's where you're going to see the most success.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's really the benefit of digital marketing, is that you can do those tests and you can see the KPIs right in front of you and you can make those adjustments. And a lot of times, maybe what you think is going to work is not what people react to well.
Right.
And like you said, in the last few months, it has been such a huge shift to natural content where people are consuming from people's phones, like videos of someone just in their car recording themselves saying like, hey, this is something that I've done. Oh, I'm on my way to the gym. Oh, wait, here's my water bottle, and that's the ad. So people are done with the overproduced. They've seen it. It doesn't feel real to them anymore. As a society, I think we're becoming much more of we recognize that everybody's kind of struggling. Everyone's human beings. And now, since that realization has happened, especially after COVID, people are like, okay, give me something real. I want someone talking to me.
Yeah, definitely. I've done quite a bit of personal branding on my platforms, and I do a good amount on TikTok, really not on the business side. I focus TikTok very much on just fun content. And, I've gone viral a couple times, which is really exciting. And some of those times have been very planned, thought out pieces of content that have taken, hours to edit, or the idea just took a while to get to. But the video that has the most views on my TikTok, which is actually 15 million views, it was crazy, it just came in one go, was a video that I made and posted in the same moment. It had no real thought in it. I focused on a trend and I like played with it, and I just posted in that moment. It wasn't the highest quality video. I'm in the train, going from DC to New York. It doesn't look anything fluffy, but for some reason it resonated with people the best.
Yeah, absolutely. I hear that all the time for people that go viral. They say, I didn't know this video was going to get to where it's at. And it's sometimes there's things that just connect to the people and you just don't realize it. So A/B
Yeah.
testing is so important.
Yeah, so important. And always like test and retest and be consistent. You know, there are people who are like, okay, I'm going to be consistent. I'm going to post once a day, and they just randomly post content. And that's also not the right strategy, right? Like, you want to post daily with intention behind your content of like, I want to see if get ready with me's or how to's or, talking to the camera are going to work for me. So I'm going to test a few different styles day by day. And then you watch the analytics and you make improvements from there. Don't just post something because you feel like it and it's random. Have some intention behind what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking about intention, you've built a reputation on focusing on omni-channel marketing. Why
Mhm.
is that so important today? And how do you structure campaigns that leverage multiple touch points to drive consumers' engagement?
Yeah, that's a great question. A lot of people don't understand that how important omni-channel marketing is, which blows my mind because like let's think about it from the user perspective, right? Like it takes now statistically more than 7 touch points for someone to see a business at least that many times before they're going to choose to even engage with it. Because again, we're seeing so many things on a daily basis. It's very hard for us to decide if we're going to trust something. And if you go into a situation and you're just like, yeah, I'm going to just start posting on Instagram because I'm supposed to be on Instagram, great, do that. But if you expect that that's going to be the end all be all, you're kind of it's wishful thinking, right? So we really have to think about our users and where they're going to go once they see our business and how we can reach them from multiple angles. So, with a food and beverage company, you think about like the reviews they get on Google that people are going to look at, and then they're going to want proof of work. So they're going to check out Instagram and TikTok. And so really, again, you have to really go into the mind of the user when you think about where they're going to need to be. So there's not a single client that we have that's only on one channel or only focused on like ads or website. They do have multiple facets that they work with that all support each other to help bring that end goal, whether direct or indirect conversions. So as it relates to working with campaigns for omni-channel, we obviously have a team on all sides, on the ad side, on the website, on the blog side, on the marketing side, and they all come together. There's always an account lead who's leading that initiative. We always have KPI goals that we're setting at the beginning and touch points throughout that process that we're making sure we're all hitting. And if we're not hitting, then that's something to be looking into on that campaign. But it's definitely something that if you don't have enough people, an omni-channel campaign can get to be a lot because obviously a lot of platforms, a lot of analytics to be looking at, and a lot of feedback to take in. So it's a heavy load, but the results can be very fruitful for clients, so it's absolutely worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, as marketers, we have to remember ourselves as human beings on our level and what makes us tick, what really brings us in, what is our consumer journey, so we can put ourselves in the mind of the user. And
Mhm.
then going off of that, the amount of times that I have to see something myself to
Yeah.
feel like it is meant for me. And
Yeah.
then if I'm seeing it on my TV, my social media, then when I'm searching, I'm finding it right there. It's going to feel like it was meant for me and it was like natural,
Yeah.
but
You
it's
want to
actually
feel like
setting.
it was. You want to feel like that video was made just for you. And that's how you win the user when they feel like you knew exactly what they wanted, what they thought, how it felt. I think a lot about the example I always give is fashion or food for myself because those are the two things I really seek out on social. And if I find a brand, like if I'm looking for a restaurant I want to go to, because I live in New York and New York is a really big place where TikTok recommendations are huge, right? So I go on these TikTok pages and I find food that I want to try. And then my second instinct is, let me Google this and see what the reviews are. That's always my second instinct. And for fashion, it's also very similar. It's, I'm looking at the Instagram pages, I'm looking at the clothes. Let me Google the reviews. Is this actually a credible website to trust? And so that process for me as a consumer is what it takes before I initiate a sale. And then I'm sure, people out there have seen this, but like when you're on Instagram and you click on a brand that you liked, whether it was in the story or the feed, I can pretty much guarantee you're going to end up seeing it in one of your story ads moving forward, right? They do a great job with the retargeting there, and it's converted me before. So as long as they're doing it right, they're thinking of those touch points, they're retargeting their analytics, they're building that relationship. You can absolutely see quite a bit of money come in from doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, as marketers, we know what they're doing. And if it's still converting us, that shows the power of it.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Sometimes I'm glad you mentioned that there's a hesitation when it comes to social media, especially Meta, for certain topics. And I think that something we need to realize is that people are now looking to that platform for information. If
Yeah.
they're looking for a new job, if they're looking for fashion, a car or house, they're going to go to see if you are a reputable company, or
Right.
maybe that's where they're going in the search bar. They're going to go check hashtags. It's something that's super important, but has changed. So it's a great
Yeah.
thing to keep in mind.
Yeah, I would say like Facebook and Instagram, predominantly Instagram, is like the LinkedIn for certain industries. Like when you think of a food and going back to the food and beverage and fashion one, you're not going to go to LinkedIn to check their credibility of like, do I want to buy their clothes or go to the restaurant? You're going to do that on Instagram, but in the same mindset that you're going to go on LinkedIn to look at a law firm or a consulting firm and see their reputation and credibility on there, because we have associated these platforms with these industries for credibility. And I mean, it's working. They're great resources. So,
Yeah, absolutely. So, can you share a success story where your omni-channel approach made a measurable difference for your client, and how did the strategy evolve over time?
yeah, definitely. I think some of my favorite ones have been combining content strategy with ads down the line. And so, one was we're working with this B2B, B2C e-commerce brand. So they have their wholesale side doing really, really well. They've been doing well for years, and now they're ready to expand on that B2C side. They're an Amazon seller. It's a plant food industry company, does really, really well. And when we started with them, they had no social presence, had never done anything. And we started with their content strategy on TikTok and Instagram. And again, because this brand hadn't done much on the B2C side, it took a lot more time to get that trust in. And our client was kind of like, I'm not seeing the results here. I don't know why we would push this. And what we really have been pushing is, hey, the omni-channel approach is we're just posting on these platforms. Of course, you're not going to see the result. We don't have anybody's trust yet. So what has developed is we were like, you want to see some measurable results. We want to be able to follow KPIs. Let's work on some ads. Excuse me. Let's work on some ads. And so we did Instagram and TikTok ads. We've done Meta and TikTok ads overall. And it's really interesting what we found. TikTok is really great with the reach and being able to get it out to a wide audience. I think that Meta is a little stronger when it comes to targeting specific characteristics that allow us to be a little bit more niche with our audience, which we love. And so that has really done well for us on Meta. And each month we are seeing that ROAS number go up each time, and they're profiting from it. So not only are we doing ads, but we're also coupling it obviously with that content online. And we are noticing that while these ads are doing well, the traffic source for these other platforms that we're using are also increasing. And that's telling me that the people that are coming from the ads, they're purchasing, but they might also be checking us out in other realms and then re-clicking from those platforms to come back to the website. And it's really cool to watch that on all of the different analytic tracks, like the Google Analytics, the Shopify analytics of it, as well as the social analytics. And you can obviously cross-reference everything and really get a good idea of, is this working or do I need to pivot?
Right. Exactly. Exactly. And also, another thing to keep in mind for the difference between TikTok and Meta when it comes to strategy is the geo. So if you're trying to get a large audience, then you would go for TikTok, but you can't set a certain geo. So if you're trying to get maybe the state or the local city, then that's Instagram or Meta is the best way to do that, because
Yeah.
that's the targets that they allow.
Definitely. And something that I have sneaky found out is that TikTok with their ads, when you are pushing for clicks and for followers, they are actually more likely going to send it out to people that would respond to those actions, but don't necessarily fit your audience. So there is a little discrepancy there. I mean, there are many companies and people who will be like, I've gotten like millions of views for my TikTok from this ad. Like, why isn't it converting? It's because sometimes it's not as focused. But Meta's platform, Meta's ads manager has been around far longer. They've had so much more time to test what they're doing and iterate and clean it up and develop it. And I think it's really served to their benefit because there's always these talks of like Facebook is dead, Instagram is really oversaturated, and we can argue those things are absolutely true. But we definitely can't argue that Facebook Meta does not have the best ads manager, because it does. And it has, the most technology or the most qualities that we can use and target and get to people. I think another one people honestly overlook is Pinterest ads manager. There's a lot going on there that people need to look into, especially if you have a website. If you are a B2C, D2C seller and you are not using Pinterest, I don't know why, because the conversions there for websites are huge right now.
Absolutely, because that is people have really high intent when they're there and they're looking at certain specifications. So one, they have their interest that they've already shown for the amount of time that they've had that Pinterest. And two, they're searching for that specific thing at the moment. So there's a double layer of targeting happening.
Yeah, exactly. And pinners are planners. That's like the big thing to know about Pinterest. They'll pin something. If they don't react to it in the moment, that's fine. They'll come back. Pinterest is one of the few platforms that people who have been dedicated pinners have been dedicated pinners for over 20 years. Whereas, platforms like TikTok, it's only like 5, 6 years in the making, right? So it's a very interesting kind of loyalty of customers that we're playing with on that platform.
Yeah, absolutely. So have you had any experience on Reddit recently?
Reddit, we've always more so played with on an organic basis. I think that's where it does better. I don't really think you should try to push ads on a platform like that because the whole point of that ad is like authentic threads and real opinions. So we've used Reddit lightly to be in conversation in a similar way that you would go on Facebook groups and be in conversation, which is just be part of the noise. And if it feels organic, pitch your client in that conversation. But because you have to be very careful to be organic with it, it's a much more slow and steady wins the race to start, plugging in your client. And a lot of these clients want to see the results a lot faster. So Reddit will never be done on its own. It can always be a supporting idea to that omni-channel strategy.
Absolutely. So what I know you mentioned a lot of social media platforms that you use for the omni-channel. Do you go out into CTV or digital out of home or anything like that?
No, we're very much focused on social media and how social media will benefit these companies for things like CTV, PR, advertising, anything that extends outside of our reach. We always partner with companies. And what's really cool about, when you get into this industry is a lot of these agencies want to connect. They want to work together, especially if they don't have your services and you don't have theirs, because it can work as complements. There's no competitiveness and you can share clients. So I've met a lot of really amazing people in these industries who have built incredible agencies and are doing wonderful things. But there's certain fields that I don't want to tap into. I'd rather be focused on our services and be very expert in our field, which is social media. We've tapped into PR, influencer marketing in-house before, and we've just seen how it doesn't work. And so we prefer that partnership angle for those things.
Right. I love that you have that opinion because at the end of the day, partnerships are super important because everyone has their expertise and that's what they focus on. They're in it every single day. And if you want to get your clients the best results, then a lot of times being able to step back and allowing them to experience that with an expert and have that lack of competition, because I've seen that shift a lot recently where it's like, we're not against each other. Let's just work together,
Right.
get the best results for this client, because we typically lean into the paid ad space. So we will partner with, branding agencies, SEO agencies, web developers, maybe social developers, so that they have that and they've already looked into those kinds of things. And then that means that they have already gone through those loops and the client is prepped and ready. And ads don't necessarily work without the branding, and branding doesn't necessarily work without the ads. So why not work together?
Yeah, and that's definitely something, I'm still working on this as an issue, but we love helping small businesses, obviously, because you want the little guys to win as well. But like you were saying, ads are so important now. And in the past couple of years, I kind of noticed that is when we would try to help these small businesses, there was only so much that we could take their reach organically. And that's the really big thing now is there has to be a budget for ad spend. And it's not one or the other. It's not ad spend or organic posting. It has to be both. And just because you're not seeing a direct conversion on that organic work does not mean it's not working. I've had clients come to me and say, people said they read our blog that you posted a year ago and that's how they found us. It's like these things happen over time, over a very long period of time, and they can keep coming back. We have clients now who reach out when they're like, "Oh, I found your blog online." I'm like, "Which blog?" And it was a blog written in 2020, So never underestimate the organic, indirect side of things and never overestimate the ads, conversion, targeted side of things.
Absolutely. Because there has to be a foundation and then there has to be a takeoff. So
Right.
those work in tandem together perfectly.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So saturation. In social media and digital marketing industry, it's something that you've pointed out as a challenge. So what do you see as the key differentiator for agencies in this competitive environment?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of saturation. This is being an agency owner is an extremely saturated industry to be in alone. There's so many of us out there with so many talents. But something I always tell all these prospects is a lot of us can do the same thing. What you really have to decide when you're deciding an agency is the relationship. Do you believe that who you're working with has the same goal in mind for your end goal of your company? Because ultimately there are, some people who just want that cookie cutter, a couple posts a month and get it done. And there are people who are really passionate about their business and want someone to feel like their business is their baby to them as well. So that's a big aspect of it. I get a lot of clients who choose us over our agency because they really enjoy the people they're working with us. The other side of this is obviously AI is coming into the world. We can't stop it. We can't, slow it down. It's going to happen. So you got to get on the bandwagon or you're going to fall behind. There's no other option now. But I say that with like a big asterisk on it because I don't think we should ever 100% rely on AI to create a piece of content or write a caption for us. They are still a little too robotic. They're not emotional enough yet. And so it's really important to use it as like a baseline foundation and then you build over it because you know the client better than the AI knows the client, right? And it's pulling a lot of things online of a lot of different people said. Sometimes the voice can get messed up. And so that's a really big part for us is never fully depend on the AI, but also don't be ignorant of the fact that we have to move forward with the AI. So those are a couple differentiators. I think that also consistency and authenticity is a really big part of this. Again, a lot of agencies and a lot do, a lot don't, but a lot of agencies will come on and they'll give you those 3 posts per week. They'll, make sure they have a formula for it and everything, but it looks like a lot of other feeds and content that you see online. And there's platforms like Canva now where you can use a lot of different templates. So it's easy for your template to look like my template because we ended up using the same template and changing the colors a little bit. So it's very, very important to be authentic and consistent with what you're doing and be aware of what's going on with other brands around you and other trends in order to bring that in for your client as well.
Right, absolutely, because it's important to take advantage of the parts that you feel are succeeding, but also keep your personality in there or your agency in there because that's why your clients are there. And
Yeah.
that's for you because they could go on AI and they could figure out some ad copy and make it
Yeah.
look like everybody else's. But that's not what they came to the expert about.
Yeah,
So being
exactly.
able to still put in our input while we still can.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's really important. And to never allow the client to fully kind of like take that road, even if they're like, well, we don't want to do this anymore. We want to go our own direction. I always emphasize like, don't take that road. Don't become the robot like every other business, or else you're not going to be able to distinguish yourself and grow. And you think about the influencers or the businesses right now that are really popular, a lot of them are distinguishing and you're seeing things you've never seen from these brands or any other brands. And that's why they're so compelling to people right now.
Exactly. Exactly. You can tell when you see that rocket emoji.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking
Yeah.
about?
You see those a lot. I get those in my DMs a lot next to we can help you with lead gen growth a lot. Those are the ones I
Mhm.
see a lot.
Always,
Yeah.
always. And this is random, but if you know Doshi, she's a new artist that came out. I mean, maybe not new, but she started to get a lot of attention. And I've been telling a lot of people that there's a lot of uniqueness out there.
Hmm.
And it's almost like uniqueness has now become basic. So it's like you have to take that extra step. And if you look at an artist like Dochi, she's really taking that extra step to be different. And that's what you have to do in your marketing.
Yeah, there's a conversation going on specifically on TikTok right now. I don't know, Kenzie, if you're like paying attention to it with influencers, specifically in the New York area, and kind of debating their not their authenticity, but their uniqueness to one another. It's a very interesting conversation going on. There's like a pull and push of different types of influencers saying, well, we're not part of this group, and others saying, yes, you are. But I think what's interesting is it is really hard to be unique in an area where one of the main types of content that does well is trends. how are you supposed to be unique when you're doing something that's trending and everyone's doing it, right? And then, a lot of influencers are going to get on that bandwagon because it's going to get the views, it's trending, all that stuff. And then a lot of these lifestyle influencers, the kind of content they're going to create is naturally going to be the same. The get ready with me, the brand deals, those kind of stuff, it's all going to be the same. And it's very hard to be unique in a market where you are built to be kind of the same. So it's a constant pull and push, but I believe they're going to figure it out. I believe these influencers are all going to find their unique place, and there's going to be new types of content that come up. But the really big part is like, don't stop trying. Don't stop being creative about it. Don't give up just because someone says it's boring today. You never know what it's going to be in a couple months.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you said that, 'cause that was actually leaning up to my next question. Because you mentioned ethical challenges in marketing, particularly with influencers and their authenticity. So, how do you navigate these challenges in a way that aligns with your agency's values?
Yeah, so biggest thing for me is we don't service influencers in-house. Sometimes on very rare occasions we will, and it'll very much be, we have a pretty grueling process of just very individual people that we will reach out to, and how they go about things in their cadence will tell us a lot about how we work with them. Are they, do they give us a reply in an appropriate amount of time? Are they kind? Are they reasonable with their pricing? And do we like their content? Does it go back and forth? So we've been very lucky to work overall with influencers that are really great. And what the other nice thing is, like, being in this whole partnership world with agencies, is I've got to meet a lot of cool companies that do the influencer marketing, and we've been able to partner with them. So it's been overall good experiences. I have that trust with the partnerships that allows for that. But influencer marketing can obviously tip very closely to being inauthentic, and we have to be very careful of that and who we pick. And they're all free agents. They're all pretty much freelancers except for the ones that have agents anyways. And it's a constant, there's no like perfect method to getting all these influencers. Every single one has their own way that they want to go about things. So just have to be mindful of that and move forward with that.
Yeah, absolutely. As long as you're just managing their expectations and being authentic yourself, and
Yeah.
everything will find its way. I believe that everything works out in the way it's
Yeah.
supposed to.
And I think that a conversation that's always being had online is like cost of influencers, which I think is such an interesting one, because I think to this day, because it's such a new market, the pricings aren't ever aligned. Someone with 1 million followers could be charging $20,000 for a video. Someone else with 1 million followers could be only charging $5,000 for a video. And it's so difficult because a lot of these influencers that you want to work with, you're like, well, what are your conversion metrics? And a lot of them, they can't give it because it's like, well, it's from the brand. I don't know exactly where my conversions come from. And then we fall into this very deep unknown of taking a risk on, paying for them. There's only a few influencers out there, truthfully, that are like celebrities or like influencers, like the Alex Earls and the Kylie Jenners of the world, that that however much you pay them, you will get that return on investment. The rest of them, it is a little bit of a gamble. You don't know where their numbers fall, and like, is this video going to flop? Because it doesn't fit their brand and their normal like aesthetic, or is it going to do really well? And we got really lucky out of it. So it's a constant push and pull. Some brands are doing it really well. Some have, affiliates or influencers that are sole sponsors for that brand, which is really cool. So what I do love about it is that there, again, is not one cookie cutter method to success with influencers. There's a lot of different types of approaches with influencers and UGC as well, from multiple deals, one deal, types of content. So it's really cool overall, just the options we've been given in the marketing world these past few years and how they've grown to just be even greater.
Yeah, it's incredible how quickly things are changing, but in a great way, because
Yeah.
new things are coming out and you're able to structure it even better, and things are going away and then something else will come and replace it that's much more targeted or authentic or whatever it may be.
Right, yeah. And that's the cool thing about marketing is like you have so many options. If you think you're limited in what you can do marketing, you are not. Whether it's, if it's budgeting, there's other pivots. If it's, lack of strategy, again, there's more pivots. So that's what's so cool about this industry. There are so many options and so many ways you could take this to be successful.
Oh yeah, and then it messes with my indecisiveness because I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, this route or this route,
Yeah,
which one?
literally.
And
You're like,
that's when
this one
testing
could be
comes in.
good because of this, but this one could be cool because of this. Constant back and forth.
I know. So that's why going back to the beginning, testing.
Yes, always testing, A/B testing, having KPI goals set at the beginning, things to test against after, always. That's big. And it's funny, not enough people are doing that yet, but I think we're starting to figure that out.
Absolutely. And be willing to kill your darlings or put them to the side.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So, a common challenge in digital marketing is managing client expectations, especially when it comes to ROIs and the need for constant content. How do you assure that clients are satisfied with their campaigns without overpromising results?
Yeah, so couple things for this, and I've kind of touched on some of them, but to go into it a little bit more in a coherent way. The first one is the social strategy. That first month, we're telling you everything we're going to do, what platforms we're going to be on, what kind of content you're going to get, why, and moving forward with that. So we don't move forward unless you've agreed to the strategy that's in front of you. If you have edits, by all means, we'll work on it and continue to grow it until you feel comfortable. But that is like the big part of this is like having that plan ahead so both the client and us know what's going on and there's transparency both ways. So that's the big part. The other part, like I said, was setting KPI metrics up front for especially for campaigns. It's like, hey, this is the campaign we want to run. We tell the client, here's the idea, here's the budget, estimated KPIs, creative, can we do it? Let us go. And then we have touch points during that, right? So there's the 1 week touch point, the 2 week touch point, the month touch point, however long it continues to go, and we iterate from that. Are we hitting the KPIs? Again, if we're not, we are meeting internally to adjust things that will help us hit the KPIs. And then at the end, we always give a campaign report detailing all of those analytics. And then when there isn't a campaign month, each month at the end of the month, our clients are receiving monthly reports detailing what we did for them, including any issues fixed. And we have progress trackers where we're tracking all of their organic analytics every single month. So, if they're able to say like, what did you do the past 3 months? We haven't been running ads. Like, what are the results? It's like, here's the KPI analytics. Here's where it was month by month. Here's the percentage growth. And it's a great way to keep us all accountable that things are changing and growing within that business.
Amazing. So you mentioned that retention is a strong point for your agency. Would you say that that has a lot to do with it, or is there something else that you would lean on for that? So that helps your long-lasting client relationships.
Yeah, I think the retention is something that just goes back to creating good relationships with business owners. And, I myself, I'm a business owner and I don't necessarily work directly on the accounts, but I always make sure to have touch points with the business owners, whether that's just texting them like a, hey, how are you? Because a lot of them, we just chat and they're more informal. Some of them want emails and we do touch points there. I have clients that quarterly we meet and we structuredly review all of the reports because we also do monthly reports for certain clients that are doing much larger things. So there's a lot of those different touch points that keep the retention. And then what's also really cool is when I was first building this agency, my first two clients are still with us to this day, the very first two we've had, and they have served as proof of work for a lot of clients that have come on board since then. And so, obviously the proof of work had to be good. They were getting good results. They were happy with it. And that helped really move things forward, both for them and for other clients. I have this one client, one of my first clients was a bakery in Washington, D.C. They do really, really well. They've been honored by the president of France and all these great things. And their food is really great quality. And within 1 year, we were able to get them from 1,000 to 10,000 followers from only organic marketing online. It was a lot of content strategy marketing. And that pitch that I'm sharing is what I have shared with so many clients after about why they should be on social and how we can grow them. And, that client has been happy. He's continued to refer other people to us. And then other clients have been happy because they've seen this proof of work and then they've seen it translate to their accounts. And so, it's a domino effect moving forward. And I think for most all businesses out there, they can probably attest to the fact that referrals is going to be one of your main continuous streams of growth because it is the most accurate kind of referral. Someone else telling someone else that someone's business is really good is a lot stronger of a referral than me going online and saying, here's what we've done for our business, come join us.
Exactly. And it's people trust the people that they already know.
Yeah.
And that's going back to Reddit. That's why people want that organic conversation with real people
Mhm.
because even if they don't even know them, they know that they're human beings and they're not there to sell them for a purpose. And it's much more lucrative that way. And also, what you'd mentioned a few seconds ago is that You have different relationships. Some are more email based, some are texts, some are structured meetings. And that is so important when it comes to retention, is knowing your client and knowing what
Yeah.
they need, and being flexible
Yeah.
and being able to move to their beat of their drum and try to make things as simple as possible.
Yeah, it's funny. We have some clients who are like, I don't want any calls. Just do, like that bakery, no calls. He's like, do your thing. If I have any issues, I'll reach out. The trust, I mean, it's been 6 years, so the trust is there. He's fine with it. I have other clients who are like, well, we still need to meet biweekly. We're still working on things. And then I even have other clients where we are forcing them to be on biweeklies because we're like, well, we don't have things together yet. We still need elements from you guys we're not getting. So you must be on biweeklies with us. And it's almost like a babysitting situation there, which is funny. But we have all the different kinds. And that's a big thing about our agency is we're very specialized and customized. There's no like, you only just get, biweeklies. It's only on Zoom. You only get this kind of content. Everything is truly structured to fit what's going to benefit our clients the most. And that's the point of marketing.
Yeah, absolutely. No shade to anybody that has those structures put in place that only want to do that. That's fine.
Mhm.
But in my professional opinion, and obviously yours as well, that's the best way to do it, because in marketing, there is no one right answer.
Absolutely. There really is never one right answer in this game.
No, absolutely not. So, speaking of you starting the agency, tell me a little bit about what inspired you to do that, and what are your passions that drove you, and what's your history a little bit before you had this agency?
Yeah, it's a interesting story. So I went to Wake Forest University and I graduated in 2019. And while I was there, I studied communication as my major with a concentration in integrated marketing studies, which really helped with the whole human psychology of targeting. I love the psychology behind targeting. I think it's so fascinating and really what we should be paying attention to when we think about the buyer's decision-making process. And then my minor was entrepreneurship, which actually ended up becoming everything to me. And I wish it was a major at the time that I was there. I think it is now, and they're doing really well. But I was very involved in the program, and they had this thing called Startup Lab where you would take certain ideas from students, your own ideas, and then you'd go into the lab and you'd get to work with different founders and you would have funding. And then at the end of the semester, you'd be pitching in front of people with the intention of getting investments. So I did that twice for the last 2 years of my schooling for two different ideas. One was an idea of mine, and one was an idea of a friend of mine. And, those ideas didn't come to fruition, but all of the experience I got out of it was everything that I'm using today, and forward. And so when I graduated, I did want to go corporate at first. And so I did have a job lined up at a very large company that is very well known. And that year they were not doing well. They were losing billions per quarter. And so they hired a new CMO who decided that it was important to internally restructure everything first from the inside out. So all of the incoming marketing offers were rescinded. And so I actually was in San Francisco about to sign a lease and start the job in a couple weeks. And I get a call that was like, we're rescinding all offers. So obviously I was a little frazzled. I'm a month out of school. This is how my adult life is starting. It was a little crazy, but my parents were very gracious in giving me some time for the summer to really figure out what would be next. And I spent a lot of time, as I do at my age, on social media, and I saw a lot of brands that I felt were not being authentic and true and not using social media for good. And, I really just thought to myself, like, why can't I just come in here and fix some of this? Like, why can't I just build it? And that's what I did. I just said, I want to build a marketing agency. I brought on my first couple clients. They were referral clients of close family friends that I knew, business owners that I could bring in. Charged very low retainers to start because I was really aiming to get that proof of work in to be able to pitch to new clients. And I was really lucky that I was able to get some paid gigs at the beginning and then was able to grow it from there. COVID hit. COVID was really funny for a business like mine because, a lot of businesses suffered, but marketing was one that before COVID, I was pitching people why they should even do marketing because a lot of these businesses were like, I'm already doing well. Why would I need your help? And after COVID, when people realized that if they weren't on social media, they were going to struggle, it really became about pitching why they should go with our agency over a different agency or go in-house. So it was really cool to watch that transition. And then throughout that time, we've grown more clients. We brought on more employees. We've been very much women dominated with the employees, which has been so awesome to work with. We love our women. We do have a couple men, and they are such women supporters. So we do love the environment there. And yeah, it's just grown from there. We've been able to work with well over 30 different industries. Everything's been customized. I've met some incredible business owners that have come and gone. There's so many of them that I'm still in contact with, that we're not necessarily working with today or vice versa. And so it's just been a really amazing experience. We've done in-person events and, partnerships, and it's just been very cool.
Oh, that's awesome. What a wonderful story of, things not working out and what you thought was going to be your path, and then it coming out to be even better than what you thought.
Yeah, truly like the adversity. And I mean, yeah, it's one of those where in the moment you're like, this is the worst thing in the world. What am I supposed to do from here? And then you see the results years later and you're like, that was such a blessing in disguise. And in the moment I couldn't see it. So yeah, and now I use a lot of that story online to feel so that people can relate to me a little bit more, because I think that with a lot of these business owners, like the ones that inspire me, the reason that I'm so connected with them and feel so connected to their story is because they also dealt with struggle before they made it to where they made it, and it's more relatable that way than to think that someone was just successful from day one.
Yeah, and I think that ties back into the authenticity. It's like, yes, your clients need to be authentic, but so do you. People are no longer buying into the I'm perfect, I know what to do, so you should follow me. If you just show a little bit of your weakness and your struggle, then
Yeah.
people are more likely to relate to you and say, oh, this person is willing to be honest. They've told me about their struggle, and then they've overcome that struggle, and I see where that is, and I can put myself in their shoes.
Yeah. No, definitely.
And it also ties into the psychology. I will say that is my favorite part of marketing is psychology. And if you could peel back those layers, then you would come to the conclusion of the authenticity and just what makes people tick. And, I always say to people, I love my job because I get to talk about psychology all day, which are two of my favorite things.
Yeah, it's so true. I think that not enough people realize how much of marketing is just psychology, and it's so much of just thinking about what the consumer is going to think and how they're going to feel about what's going to be put in front of their face. And that goes across the board for anything, even if you're not trying to sell, but you're posting online. Like that's why the best influencers, marketers, brands are storytellers. They're the ones that can connect with you because they're relating to something you have going on, whether it's emotional or experiential. There is some kind of storytelling aspect that is allowing you to connect with this brand or person. And we think of someone like the top influencers, like an Alex Earl, who really capitalized off of her storytelling ability. I think that that is the reason she is where she is today, is because she knows how to tell a story as if it's just one-on-one and you are the only one that knows her, even though millions of people are watching those videos.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of what we said is going to answer my next question, but I would love to get your exact opinion on this. So, with the constant evolution of platforms and targeting capabilities, where do you see paid social media ads heading in the next few years, and what should agencies be doing to stay ahead of the curve?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they're going away anytime soon. I think they're going to get used more and more. Unfortunately, that means they're going to get more and more expensive because the more we use it, the more saturation, the more budget it takes for these generators to reach the audiences. So I would say if you're not already using it, start using it now while it's cheaper and you have the ability to test and find your audience early on. As we develop with things like influencer UGC marketing, we are going to want to use ads and campaigns in a complementary way to what they're doing, right? So, if we're talking about an event or a launch and we've got influencers doing that, we should probably be running ads with similar language and content that's doing that. I think prior to having done some of these A/B tests where I noticed that UGC content wasn't necessarily what was going to be successful for certain brands, and those simple like picture ads would be more than enough. I think my opinion has changed on saying that just because an influencer is posting content that's really good, that doesn't mean you should take that video and make it an ad. Still think about the separation between the two and what they need individually. But obviously, when you're creating a strategy, you create brand alignment and keep that brand alignment between those two channels and between those two strategies as you develop them forward. One is not independent of the other. They are codependent to each other, with some dependency or with some independency to their individual needs.
Yeah, that's really great insight. I really like that.
Nice. Yeah, well, definitely. It's going to be very cool. I'm very excited for the next few years of marketing and where it's going to go.
Amazing. Well, speaking of marketing, let's market yourself. So if anyone that was listening wants to get in contact with Yasmeen, where can they contact you?
Yeah, so you can go on our website to the contact page. You can fill out the form submission, which actually leads you directly to a calendar to book a time directly with me so we can start meeting and discussing your needs for that consultation. You can also reach us on any of the socials. We're on all the platforms: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, LinkedIn, Pinterest, you name it, we're there. So any of those, we will be able to reach out to you as well.
Oh, well, so Yasmeen, this has been such a great conversation. Your insights on authentic social media content, omni-channel strategies, and client retention really highlights what makes BlueTick Social stand out in a crowded market. So for anyone listening who wants to learn more about BlueTick Social and how Yasmeen and her team are making waves in the digital marketing world, be sure to check out their website at blueticksocial.com or any of her social media platforms that she mentioned. Thank you again for joining me, Yasmeen. It has been a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me, Kenzie.
And thank you so much for listening, everybody. I hope you have a great day.